You're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast with your hosts, Quentin Ferris and Horatio Gonzalez. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers. What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Chain Clankers podcast. I'm your host, Q, here as always with Horatio Gonzalez. We got a really fun show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be talking about some things that just clicked for us over the last 6 months of really getting into disc golf, really trying out some new things. These might be some things you might not have heard in every single tutorial, and just kind of by playing, we've figured these things out, and genuinely has helped us become much better disc golfers. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned through the end to hear all of these different tips. We got 6 tips for you guys today, 6 ways to become a better disc golfer over the off season, and just things to continue to work on, and definitely things that we are working on and has helped us become better disc golfer. So if you want to improve with us, hey, congrats, you're already listening to this podcast. That is the number one way to do that. But definitely make sure you do listen through to this last episode. If you haven't checked out last episode, we talked a little bit about mental game with Jordan Castro. It was a really good episode. The episode before that, we talked about increasing your driving distance with Ezra Aderhold. So yeah, some good shows coming out. We've got some good guests lined up as well in the coming weeks. Let's go ahead and let's bring Horatio in. Horatio, how are we doing today, man?
Doing good. Been isolation these last few days. Been a little under the weather. It's probably the longest I've gone in a while without playing disc golf, about 3 days. So
my goodness, 3 days.
Yeah,
you lucky guy. You lucky man.
Usually a day or two is the longest I go without. So
Yeah. Thankfully for myself and hopefully a lot of you out there that are students as well, finals are over, so definitely going to have some more time to be able to get out there and clank some chains. Of course, here in the middle of Kansas, as soon as that happens, we go from like 55, 60 degree weather to 20 degrees, 30 degrees and some wind, so it's just so cold out there. And I'm going to be the first one to let you guys know right now, I'm a wee little baby, a toddler, as some would say, when it comes to the cold. I hate the cold. But over the last couple of, at least last week, when it was like about, 60, 55-ish, I'm not going to lie, it really wasn't that bad. Maybe being out there in a light jacket and some shorts on, I felt like I was shredding the course. I felt a lot better than when it was like 103. Horatio, I know you're somebody who you really don't care what the weather is like. Do you have a preference on cold or hot when playing disc golf?
I definitely will take 105 degree temperature over 30 degrees. Once I get what's the word?
Used to it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a word for it, but whatever.
Acclimated.
In the heat, acclimated.
There we go. Acclimated.
Once I get acclimated in the heat, I kind of just forget about it, and as long as I'm drinking water, it's fine. But in the winter, it's similar, but not as fun. Obviously, I'd take nice 80-degree weather, no wind, any day.
Oh, yeah. I definitely do feel it is one of those things where, the more you do it, the more you're going to get used to it. So, yeah, I'm definitely someone who, when it comes to the heat, once I get acclimated as well, and I just kind of get over that mental block of, guy, it's going to be hot, you're going to sweat. Get over it, then I'll be fine. It's just those days when I can literally feel my skin boiling out there in the heat that I'm like, dude, this sucks. But yeah, it felt pretty nice. I do like being able to go to the course and not being attacked with bugs or mosquitoes or something like that, as well as a little less foliage out there, and being able to maybe snake through a couple different trees every now and then. So yeah, that's pretty nice. But yeah, like I said, we got a really good show. If you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We really do appreciate all of you guys who are tapping in right now and listening and leaving some ratings and reviews over on Apple Podcasts, which I want to go ahead and read some of the reviews that we've gotten on Apple Podcasts. We haven't really done that in a while, and we got some new reviews in. So let's do that. I think that'll be pretty fun. And a little bit of a shout out. And hey, if you want to be shouted out on the show, go over to Apple Podcasts. We know you're listening out there, and drop us a rating and review, and you might be on the show as well. So our first one coming in here from choose_joy420. It is a incredible disc golf podcast, 5 stars. This was quickly become my favorite disc golf podcast. The hosts are entertaining and relatable. They make disc golf content that I can listen to for hours. They really want to help players of all levels. Some pods only focus on the pro tour, and this podcast takes a greater look at disc golf. They have done some incredible interviews with 2020 USDGC champion Chris Dickerson, along with Chris Clemens, Casey White, and more. Can't wait to see what they have next. Choose Joy. Thank you for that. And then our next one comes in from Kai Olson. I can't see the full title, but it says the future is bright for these. I'm going to imagine it says 2. 5 stars, saying these guys are doing a great job with their fresh takes on growing the sport of disc golf. I enjoy listening because they give insightful advice on the mechanics of playing, as well as sharing personal experiences with the sport. It's always good to get subtle advice when you're new to something, and these guys are doing it well. They also do an amazing job staying active and up to date with their listeners and followers. That's definitely something I really, I don't know, take pride in. Being interactive on Instagram. If you haven't already, follow us at Chain Clankers. But, really connecting with you guys. And if you ever have a question, if you ever want to talk, definitely slide in the DMs, comment on posts. We definitely always want to do that and interact with you guys. And our last one coming in here comes from, I don't even know how to pronounce this, the first part of this name. It's like Glutenius Glizzy, or is that correct? Is that how you would pronounce that, Horatio? Glutenius?
So. Have you ever seen the movie Onward?
No, I haven't. I don't watch movies.
It's on it's on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Okay. I do have that because I watched The Mandalorian and literally hate every second of it because it stresses me out. It's a TV show, guy. Don't be stressed out about it.
But it's a really good movie. You guys should check it out sometime.
Yeah.
But it's Gelatinous Glizzy.
Gelatinous. Nice. Well, I'm glad that I still cannot read. That's something I'm definitely working on, along with my disc golf game. But they say they gave 5 stars, and they said these guys are number one. Their opinions are number one. Their interviews with professional players are number one, and their podcast is number one. Thank you, Glizzy. We really do appreciate that, and thank you to everyone who has left us a rating and review. We really do appreciate all those. And hey, if you are one final thing before we get to the episode. Genuinely, thank you guys so much for listening and following us and interacting with us. We really do appreciate it. We really haven't been doing this for that long, and you guys continue to make this thing possible. You guys really are awesome. And if you head over to Apple Podcasts and you look up disc golf right now, I'm just going to give us a quick toot because we are coming in at number 9 right now on the list. So that is really just a reflection on you guys, and thank you guys for listening and tapping in. And you're the reason that we're able to be there. You guys are the reason that we're able to do this. So yeah, we really do appreciate you. But let's get into today's episode here. Like I said, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We got a ton of great episodes coming up. I think our next interview is going to be with the guys over at OTB Discs. So you're definitely going to want to check that one out. But Horatio, what do you got for your first tip?
Okay, so this one kind of. Recently, I've been trying to work on this off season on my forehand. I kind of put it off. When I first started playing, I threw it and I was decent at it, but then I just wanted to focus on my backhand and really get it and get that distance. So I kind of just put it in the back burner and didn't really mess with it too much. But now in this off season, I've been trying to focus on it more and get more practice with it. So if I go play with buddies or if I go play by myself, I'll throw 4 discs off a tee pad and I'll throw 2 backhand and 2 forehand, just to try and get that practice. And I mean, I've watched all the tutorials on YouTube from Eagle, Big Germ. Everyone has a tutorial on throwing forehand, it seems. And I pay attention to them and follow the instructions, and I just couldn't quite get it. Something wasn't clicking. And I was doing everything they were saying and it just didn't work. It wasn't until recently we went out and played with a guy that we just met there at the course, and he would throw this effortless flick. He would walk up a couple of steps, and on holes where I'm throwing it over trees, and it's probably like a 290-foot, 300-foot big hyzer for me, he was throwing it on a flick, super easy, and getting it there to the pin, no problem. And I recorded it because I was going to post it on Instagram, but I didn't get his name, so I didn't want to post it without his permission. But I kept watching the video, trying to see what he was doing or what was working for him, because when I say effortless, like it looked like he was barely trying, and this disc was just going 300 feet. And one thing that occurred to me that he was doing, he was kind of leaning back. And then when I watched the videos of me throwing the forehand, I noticed that I was kind of leaning forward, kind of like leaning into my throw. And when I was doing that, the disc would just go way up, or it would come out wobbly, or it would come out with no power at all. So when I started to lean back on my forehand throw, kind of like on that last step you take, just leaning back slightly, keeping my shoulders back, keeping my weight back on that last second, and then charging my wrist and then letting it through, then I immediately saw like a night and day difference. The disc was coming out with power, it was coming out straight, and I was getting it out easily 250 feet plus. I knew I had the power there, but I just couldn't get the timing or the technical part of it down. And so I would say look at that if you guys are wanting to improve your forehand, if you're wanting to get more distance, or if you just can't figure it out. You tried in the beginning and it wasn't working for you and you don't know why. There was nothing else that I could think of that was causing mine to be bad. But once I started doing this, it completely changed everything. So definitely try that. Maybe I'll make a video here soon and kind of comparisons of how I was throwing the flick before and how I'm doing it now and how it's changed that. So that's my first one. I don't know if you've kind of noticed that or if you have messed around with your forehand much this off season.
Yeah, that actually leads me into my first one, and we should definitely make that video. We should also definitely make a video for this point that I'm going to make. It has a lot to do with grip and just gripping the disc correctly, or in a way to allow myself to throw the disc harder and be more accurate. And I want to start, and I don't want to give all of it away because obviously, you know, I want you guys to be able to come back for that video, and being able to demonstrate it will be significantly easier. But a lot of it does have to do with that grip. Since I've changed my grip, probably, within the last 2 weeks, I'd say, I went to a course that I played. It was the very first tournament I ever played in. I shot I'll be honest with you guys. Literally, let's go back to our intro with you guys when we said we're going to be nothing but honest with you guys, and we're going to give you the realistic version of what we are and coming on this journey with you. I shot a plus 15. It was awful, okay? Terrible round. First ever tournament in rec. It is what it is, but even going back to that course time after time, I'd never really found a way to get even to that +8 mark. Like, I just had struggled and struggled and struggled, and then I finally went back with a new grip, and I haven't gone there in probably since that monsoon when we went there. And I went there with this new grip and immediately shot even par. And then I went back again and shot even par, and I realistically should have been probably 4 down, but I missed a couple of holes I normally always get. So grip is incredibly important, and ensuring that you are holding the disc correctly changes it from, you know, being able to throw a 250 and maybe you get it in the middle of the fairway once every 3 throws or something like that, to, since I've changed my grip, I've been able to keep it in the fairway, I would say 75% of the time, that the disc is going to go where I intend it to go, as well as my distance has just grown at least 50 to 100 feet immediately, and is continuing to grow based off of how I'm holding the disc. And so, speaking of that forehand, not only is the distance and accuracy getting better, I'm able to make those approach shots significantly easier, starting with the zone that I use. You know, initially I was like, wow, this Get Freaky stock Crystal Flex zone is so overstable. Like, how does anyone use this? And then I changed my grip, and I'm like, wow, it was a me thing, not the disc kind of thing. And now I can get that disc to pretty much go straight depending on what height level I throw it at, all because of a very quick and easy, simple little change with my grip. So I think that grip is incredibly, incredibly important. And just, you know, another example of that, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's this one hole at that course that I have never even come close to birdieing, and it's probably like 350-ish or something like that. And then I went and threw it, and I was probably about 15 feet out and was able to cash in the bird just because of this grip change. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that video, or maybe we'll talk about it in a podcast as well. But grip is incredibly important and something you're going to want to focus on, and figuring out that grip that works for you and allows you to throw things straighter, is going to inevitably help you in your journey and help you get better.
What did you change, or what made you change it?
So I guess what made me change it was probably just kind of actually, it was listening again to our episode with Ezra Adderhold and watching a couple of his videos, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I feel like I'm a pretty good sized fella. I should be able to throw the disc further than how I'm throwing it right now. And then I watched another video. I want to say it was from Danny Lindahl. It was an old video about grip, and it literally just clicked with me. Like I said, I don't want to give it away right now because I want to save it for the video. It'll be so much easier to show you what I'm talking about. But instead of holding onto the flight plate, I held the disc a little bit different with my power grip, and that then in turn allowed me to get more snap on the disc and allowed me to have more control with the disc. Surprisingly, I didn't think that was going to be possible. Also, moving my thumb on the disc to a different location allowed for that to happen. So yeah, definitely I'll explain it a lot easier in that video when I can visually show you, because I know not everyone watches this on YouTube. So I'll save it for that video for sure. But definitely changing up my grip, getting less off the flight plate and more on the rim allowed me to do those things. And also, it could also be a combination of my hip is feeling somewhat better than it was a couple months ago. So that also I'll talk about here in a little bit. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer to that question. Not
Cool.
great, but yeah,
It's
grip is
tough.
so important.
It's tough,
Honestly,
yeah.
I would argue that grip is, outside of nose angle, grip is probably the most important thing when throwing the disc. If you have the
I mean,
wrong grip, you're not going to be able to get the disc to do what you want.
it's everything, yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought about it. What do you have for your second one?
All right, so my next one is backhand speed. And kind of what I mean by this is I'll go back a little bit. There was a few months ago we were playing a local course here, and it's hole one, and I think it's about 310 feet, just a little bit slightly to the right. The last 60 feet is wooded, so you have to get in that wooded area, and the basket's back there, and then there's a fence behind the basket. We went there and played, and I completely pured the shot. It went and hit the back of the fence. I thought it had gone in the basket at first, but it hit the back of the fence and then just stopped back there. And it was probably the best shot I had ever thrown there because it was just a perfectly 310-foot laser shot. And I was like super happy, and I was like, wow, that's good because I've never been able to get it in there. And then after that, I've still gone to play that course all the time. That's the one just down the street from my house. So I play it nearly every day. And I had not been able to get that shot again. And I had not been able to put the disc back there by the basket like I had done that one time. And it was frustrating because I knew I could do it. I knew I had the power to do it. And it was 310, which I can throw easily in an open field or anywhere. I can throw 310. But it was just that shot. And at this time, I had been getting kind of comfortable with my X step, with my run up, and getting, I guess, kind of confident, I guess. So I started speeding up a little bit more. And so, what I've forced myself to do in these last couple of weeks is slow down my run up again. I know we talked about this in the past, just slow down, slow down, slow down when you're learning. But even I had learned it, I had gotten it down, and now I'm saying slow down again because I wanted to get my timing down perfectly. I knew I had the power. So I've been forcing myself to slow down and focus on my timing, focus on my release. And since I've done that in the last 3 weeks or so, I've been able to put the disc on that hole back by that basket in that little area, basically parking it for birdie 4 or 5 times. And I've been able to do it consistently. And sometimes when I go and play, I'll do it twice in a row, or I'll do it the next day. And it literally was just me slowing down. So I was losing power, even though I was comfortable. I was doing the X step correctly. I was losing power and distance because I was speeding it up, and somewhere it was throwing my timing off just a little bit, and because of that, I was losing 50 to 100 feet, and my accuracy was off also. So by me slowing down, I was able to focus on my timing, focus on, you can feel when you're releasing, you can feel how you're holding your hand if you look back, how you're holding the disc to make sure it doesn't come up nose up, to make sure it comes out at the right angle. So I'm able to focus on more of those things. That way when I do release and when I pull through and I go through the power pocket and everything's good. Everything's solid. As opposed to when I'm running, I'm focusing on that speed and not tripping or just powering it, that I'm not focusing on all the little things. And you might think it'd be hard to focus on all those things when you're trying to throw a disc, but it's not really. If you're walking your X step, you can focus. Okay, am I leaning back too much? Am I leaning forward too much? How am I holding the disc? Am I holding it too tight? How's my grip? So even if you've been playing for a year, 5 years, and you're kind of in a slump where you're not getting distance, you're not growing anymore, I would tell you to slow down again. Go back to literally just walking the X step out and focusing on that pull through and see what it does. Let us know if you see results, if it helps you out. I know for me it has, and it kind of, especially for newer players, it will help you break those bad habits. So I would say definitely try that out. It's been working wonders for me. I've been able to play more consistently and less penalties. I've been making less mistakes by just slowing down.
I think that is an incredible tip, especially because it is one of those things where slowing down is literally so much better than just trying to go super fast. And it kind of goes back again to that interview with Ezra where it might have been Ezra, it might have been someone else where, they were talking about literally just slow down. You speeding things up to go fast is not going to help you. You can still throw a far distance and be more accurate by slowing down, taking your time, and ensuring your timing is correct than just absolutely yeeting it every single time, because you're gonna mess something up inevitably. We see James Conrad, and others at the highest level be able to do that because they are professionals. They are literally the best in the business. Like, they can go that fast and still make sure their timing is correctly. We cannot yet. So slowing down is incredibly important. And something else that's incredibly important is that nose angle. That's the next thing that I feel is just that I've learned recently is so, so, so important. And Horatio, we can literally go back to when you first started playing. That nose angle was so high up that it felt like a ton of the times that you guys would throw it, it would literally just go 70 feet up in the air and then just kind of come back down like 100
Yeah.
feet in the fairway instead of actually going straight. So ensuring you're throwing with that nose down, and it goes a little bit back to my grip that I'll explain in that video. The way that I've positioned my thumb on the disc in really thinking about pouring that cup of coffee and ensuring, like, in the back of my head, okay, I'm going to get the nose angle down, is going to allow you to throw something straighter and allow you to get so much more distance on your discs and be more accurate. And especially, I mean, think about it. When you have a tunnel shot or when you have a low ceiling, you can't throw it super high unless you just decide you're going to go over everything. But even then, like, if you are super nose up, it's going to not go as far as you want. You want to have that lower nose angle. I mean, there's been a couple times where I've thrown it maybe 4 feet off the ground, and it's gone farther than when I've thrown it 30 feet off the ground, just because of that nose angle and how that nose angle is interacting. And another thing with that nose angle is then thinking about how you're putting, right? Thinking about, okay, if I'm far away and it's a headwind, well, I need to do this with my nose angle. If it's a tailwind, I need to do this with my nose angle. So thinking about those nose angles, same thing on approach shots, literally on approach shots. Okay, if I'm going to throw a backhand approach shot, I want to throw slightly nose up so that way it doesn't go speeding past the basket. You have to understand your nose angles and understand when and where to use your nose angles out there on the course. And I think that's been something that's been extremely beneficial for myself, and it's really helped me over the last couple of weeks improve my distance improve my score, take strokes off of my score. And yeah, I think grip combined with nose angle has been very, very good for me, especially, and I hinted at this a little bit earlier, if you've been a long time listener to this show, you know that I'm dealing with a little bit of a hip injury, and that it literally happened out in the field, and I just have not really been able to get over it. And for the first time last week, I threw the disc, and I gave no regard to how my hip was going to feel afterwards. And it was one of my best throws yet. And so then I tried to do it for the remaining like 7 holes, and things went relatively fine. I was a little bit sore, but no pain or anything like that. So that's really good. So yeah, the nose angle, the grip, and being able to explode through your hips is something that's very, very critical, and something that I think the more that I've kind of learned to do those motions, the better that I've gotten. I mean, literally, I remember going into my first tournament, I was so like, I don't know, I didn't know what to expect, so I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm totally gonna kill it, like I'm definitely gonna win this, like I'm playing in rec, like no big deal, like if you're in rec, you're at least my skill level or worse. Boy, was I wrong. And now I feel like coming into this next season, I really do feel like, Horatio, you and I definitely have a chance at maybe walking away with a couple of W's in 2021, especially with the tips we've been learning this podcast. So yeah, nose angle, grip, getting healthy, those have definitely been some things that have been pretty clutch for me lately. What do you got for your last one?
So my last one, this one is, it's not necessarily a throwing, I guess, backhand or forehand. It's more of like a game tactic. Because when you're out there, you're playing technical. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I've noticed that when I go out and play with my buddies and stuff, one of the things that makes or breaks their games is our approach shots. And it'll be the difference between me being even or being plus 5 or 6, or them being 6, 7 shots behind me because of the approach shots. I guess I've stopped trying to be fancy or just difficult, and sometimes you overcomplicate if you had a bad drive, or if you had a decent drive and you're just trying to get that par, and you're looking at what shots you have, you're looking at the baskets, and you're like, well, I could do this, or like I should try to do this, as opposed to, I know this shot, I know I can make this shot, and it's boring, or it's, and it might get me just the par, or it might put me 15, 10 feet out, not super close, but I know I can do it, and I know it's going to be safe. So my tip would be laying up with approaching with the same disc until you learn your approach shots, until you're consistent with them, until you learn your power in like a standstill. Kind of just same with putters. Try to go down to one mid that you're comfortable with, that feels good in the hand, and that you can do multiple things with. For me, that's the Innovator. I have one, a Star Champion Innovator, and I know that if I need to approach and I'm 150 feet out, I'm going to put it on a slight hyzer. I'm going to aim right at the basket, and it's going to come in, and it's just going to sit down. And I've been getting so many pars, so many birdies, just being able to do that. If I need to go to the right, I know it's a disc that I can throw on a forehand, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to cut to the right. So I'm using the same discs for two different things, as opposed to if I had one disc where I needed to go right or left, and another disc where I needed to go straight, and another disc where I needed, do something else. And that's fine. I mean, I have multiple mids also, but I don't throw them unless I'm like driving with them or something. For approaching, I'm trying to get consistent with my approach shots, which with my standstills. And my friends are pretty impressed because I'll throw that gator and I'll put it right under the basket, or I'll curl up and come right down. And once you do it a bunch of times, it's really not that difficult to do, just with like driving or putting. Like, it's just one of those skills that you're going to have to learn to get consistent. And if you can set yourself up for an easy putt or an easier putt, maybe it's not a tap in, but it's one of those that you actually practice in the backyard, as opposed to a 30 footer If it's like a 10, 15 footer, those are the ones you practice. So if you can set yourself up for that, you are going to take a ton of strokes off of your game. So that's one thing I've been doing a lot lately, and it's definitely taking a lot of strokes off my game personally. So yeah, just find a mid. It doesn't even have to be a mid. It can even be a putter, I guess, depending on how far you can throw, how much power, but just one that you can trust, one that you know it's going to be consistent. I would say preferably something overstable. And I'm going to say that just because you're able to throw that in windier situations. You're able to play more with the field. Like I said, if I have the basket and I'm looking at it, I'm going to throw it to the right, and I know it's going to fade in. Because when you start throwing discs right at the basket, that's, I feel like, when you start to make mistakes. Because you're like, well, this is a neutral disc or this is a straight disc. This should fly straight at it if I throw it correctly, and it should be right there. But good chances are it's not. Depending on the wind situation, or if you mess up your throw a little bit, that disc is going to wear off to the right, or it's going to go off to the left, or it's going to do something else. But an overstable disc, I know it's always going to finish left for me, a right-handed player. So as long as I put it the certain amount distance to the right, it's going to fade left, it's going to drop, and it's going to sit right there. I would have to turn it over a lot to get that disc to fade to the right. I would have to completely, do a turnover shot, which I can do with that disc, and I've done to lay up in certain spots. I'll do a flex shot, get it to turn over, and then finishes left. So that's my tip. That's one thing that's been helping me a lot, and hopefully it helps you guys also.
Yeah, I really like that. Couple of points I want to add to that. The first one is I completely agree with the overstable approach shot due to the fact of, oh my gosh. I'm sorry, everyone. I got to be completely honest with you right now. I've got the Chiefs game going on in the corner right now. We're recording this during the Chiefs game. I've got my jersey on. The Chiefs suck right now, all right, guys? Let me tell you what. I just saw Patrick Mahomes throw an interception and then fumble and then just took a 30-yard sack. So they are absolutely terrible right now. That's my non-disc golf take right now. I'm disgusted. I'm turning this thing off. This is so disgusting. But I really like the overstableness factor because you always know where the disc is going to land. You don't have to think, okay, well, if I don't throw this perfect, it might go over to the right. No, you know the thing's going to come back left eventually. As well as I think that, you were talking about the 10, 15, that's where you want to land, not 30 feet, which is so true. And I put this out on our Instagram story the other day. You want to have a zone that you want to land in. Don't aim for the basket. When you aim for the basket, that's when you miss the basket. That's when you go 60 feet to the left or 60 long or something like that. You want to aim at a spot in the ground or a zone, So for example, if I know I can cash in from 15 feet every time, I want to be 15 feet short, 15 feet long, 15 to the right, 15 to the left. I want to be somewhere inside of that circle, and I know I'm going to be okay. So finding that circle for yourself, landing in that circle, not trying to land in the basket or right under the basket every single time, that's what you want to be focusing on. And yeah, I really do like that. And it kind of brings me to my last one here to wrap this show up, and it's putting mentality. It's one of those things where you hear a lot of different people. I've heard some folk be like, when you're practicing putting, you should take your time and only go up there with one disc, and then really take your time, and it doesn't matter if you get 20 good putts in, and that's better than getting 200 putts in. And then Eagle in his Vlogmas videos was talking about putting, and he said, no, you want to have a stack of putters and just continue to work on that muscle memory and going quick sometimes and being able to, consistently hit that release point. And I think there's positives to both of those. And I think I'm someone who I'm to the point now where in practice, I am going to continue to hold multiple putters with me, and I'm going to, be kind of going fast, but also kind of trying to take my time and make them depending on what I'm doing. But when I'm actually on the course, I'm someone who typically will go up with two putters in hand. Maybe I do it as a crutch. Maybe I do it as a weights kind of stabilizer, or maybe it just feels better in my hand. But I need to stop doing that. And it's something that am going to continue to be working on right now, because what I'll do is, I'll be playing, and if I miss the first one, I'll literally calm down and then cash the second one immediately without even thinking about it. And I think that was starting to build some bad habits of being like, well, it doesn't really matter if I miss the first one because I know I'm going to make the second one anyways. I know I can make this putt. So going up with only one putter in hand in turn is going to help me be like, no, guy, this is literally do or die. Like, you have to make this. This is trying to put myself in pressure situations, trying to put myself in tournament situations in order to get better, make more putts, because I think that's inevitably what's going to help my putting the most right now, is making those very difficult putts, forcing myself into those pressure situations, being like, you literally only have one putt right here. So putting yourself in a tournament mindset, your putting mentality, those kinds of things have been really important to me over the last couple of months that I've been working on. And I have started to see some success with it. My putt rate has gone up. I think I'm at like 90% or something like that from 15 feet out. So definitely something I'm continuing to work on. And I really think that mentality, if you can, if you're someone who you're never really going to play a tournament or whatever, that's fine. You don't have to play tournaments, but still put yourself in that mindset so that way you can challenge yourself and you can challenge your friends, because it's fun to go out and play with your friends and beat your friends every time. It's a good time. So even if you're not playing a tournament, you want to be as good as you want to continue to get better, so that way you can be good out there on the course. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to get better. So I think that this podcast is hopefully helping you along that journey, and we can all continue to get better together. That's what we want to do with this podcast. And I'm sorry if you're listening right now. I tried to go back on Instagram and find your name, but I cannot find the post anymore. Someone tagged us. I don't know if you saw this, Ratio. Someone tagged us on Instagram. It was kind of around the whole Spotify rap thing, but they had 5 disc golf podcasts that they listened to, and they were talking about how, if you want to continue to get better at disc golf, it's not just going out and playing all the time. It's listening, taking in other information, and we were one of the podcasts that they listened to. So thank you so much for that. And like I said, thanks to everyone who does listen to this show. Horatio, do you have anything else you want to add, or are we good to get out of here until next week when we sit down with OTB?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Sweet. Well, guys, like I said, I do appreciate you all stopping by and listening to this episode. We got a really good show with OTB Discs. We're going to be talking a little bit about just maybe the business side of disc golf, and how their business operates, and some other really cool stuff. So I think it's going to be a really fun episode. So definitely come back for that one. It's going to be really informative and really entertaining. They're an awesome group of guys. So can't wait for that one. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll check you guys out next week. Can't wait for it. We'll see you then. Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.